Thank you for joining us in our study of Ezekiel chapter 20. This week, Jerry takes us into Israel's continuing rebellion of God. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Take it away, Jerry.
We're looking at, this is interesting. We're looking at the history of Israel and God's mercy. Have we done that before? Every week, right? God is having to say it over and over. They don't have the Bible, so they have to say it because it's on the scrolls, and it's being put on the scrolls, but it hadn't been delivered yet because the printing presses haven't existed. So they're trying to figure out, and he's using it a little bit different every time. He tells them the history and the punishment every time. And there's more, I look at this, I start studying, and I go, it's the same thing, but it's not. In my mind, because there's so many more details or different details that he's thinking one of these is going to catch them. Somebody's going to finally figure out what I'm talking about. If I just get one of them to do it, I'll be happy. No, I'd like to have all of them do it. But this time they're in Ezekiel's delivered a message, and the message is because the leaders and the elders had come into his house to say, we want to inquire of the Lord. And we'll talk about what they're inquiring about. And then his response is going to be, let's go over the history again. Let's let you know. You keep saying, why are we here? What's going on? Well, we'll tell you the history again, so you'll figure out why we're here. We'll tell you all this stuff about, again, what's going on. And why does it keep getting written down in the Bible over and over and over? Because we got to learn it.
We need it too.
We need it too.
We keep doing it over and over and over.
Yeah. It doesn't sink in all of a sudden. It takes a while to sink in. Okay. That's why we keep going over the same subject each time. Okay. If somebody would read.
Jerry, there's a nuance in the language that you used from chapter to chapter. Some people read something and it doesn't sink in. But the next chapter, it's a little different wording, and all of a sudden it flips a switch.
Yeah. To me, that discovery came when you spoke about something one Sunday, and I thought, he didn't say about this. Well, that wasn't your interest, it's my interest.
Right.
That's why each of you have to read it yourself, because then you will get what you're interested in. He's doing it because it interests different things hit people. Luke talks about all the medical stuff. It's one of those things that eventually it's going to hit. Okay. And so he's trying to help us every way he can. Okay. Yeah. So somebody read verses 1-4. Quick.
In the 7th year, in the 5th month, the 10th day, some of the elders of Israel came to inquire of the Lord, and they sat down in front of me. Then the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, speak to the elders of Israel and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Have you come to inquire of me? As surely as I live, I will not let you inquire of me, declares the sovereign Lord. Will you judge them? Will you judge them, Son of man? Then confront them with the detestable practices of their ancestors.
So Ezekiel's given the exact day again, the 7th year, the 5th month, the 10th day, which happens to be August the 14th, 591 BC. I didn't figure that out. Lots of the commentaries did. Why exact? Why so exact? Everything he's doing is exact. He wants people to realize that this was said a long time before it happened. He doesn't want them to say, "Oh, they came in and put an addition to it," because that's what they were believing. Okay, he wanted to make sure that wasn't going on, and they're going to inquire of the Lord. They're wanting to know, why are they experiencing these trials? And when will it end? Remember, at this time, the false prophets were going around telling people, God will not let his city fall. Remember, what's happening now is the people over in Jerusalem and Judah, a third was in the first captivity. The third was there. Still a third of the people haven't been brought into captivity yet. And so he's trying to tell them, this is going to happen. And the people in Babylon said, no, God wouldn't. It's his city. He's our God. He's not going to let that happen. And then will not inquire. God's response was, I will not be inquired by you. And he says, Then he goes into this, says God through Ezekiel is going to remind the Jews that of all the times their ancestors disobeyed God. God wanted them to understand why they were being held captive and why Jerusalem must be destroyed. Somebody read 5-8.
Say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. On the day I chose Israel, I swore with uplifted hand to the descendants of Jacob and revealed myself to them in Egypt. With uplifted hand I said to them, I am the Lord your God. On that day I swore to them that I would bring them out of Egypt into a land I had searched out for them, a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful of all lands. And I said to them, each of you get rid of the vile images you have set your eyes on, and do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. But they rebelled against me and would not listen to me. They did not get rid of the vile images they had set their eyes on, nor did they forsake the idols of Egypt. So I said, I would pour out my wrath on them and spend my anger against them in Egypt.
Okay, he says, on that day I chose Israel and swore in the descendants. He's referring to an oath that he made Israel when he was in the land of Egypt. That's where he built the nation. Remember, 66 people headed down to Egypt, and then it met with four of Joseph's family. So 70 people started. Okay, 400 years later, there's around 2 million people. Okay, so it seems, and they were slaves during most of that time. Okay, not all the time, but there's the punishment. We're being slaves. No, he's growing his nation in safety. As slaves, there's no way attacking Egypt. Maybe put you down there where you're going to be safe. Yeah, you're going to be slaves, but you're going to be safe. And so that's what he's doing. He's letting his nation grow so that he can use them later on. Okay, so sometimes he doesn't give us a memo of what's the exactness of what's happening to us today. And he's God, we're not. You can just need to remember that. Just go along with what's going on and praise him in everything you do. There's no record of the specific oath that he's talking about here, but it's kind of a restatement of the covenant God made with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he says, made myself known to them in the land of Egypt. I think God is referring to that's what I've got up here, the plagues. Okay. He wants the Egyptians to know this isn't natural. All these things are pretty horrific, and they're things that I did. I'm God. You're not. I'm powerful. You're not. Okay. He's also wanting to show the Jewish people who get ready to be this nation, I can do these things. He's also trying to show them that the Gentile gods were myths and that they had no power over good and evil. Because every time they did something, I think they did, the Egyptians could do the first 3 or 4 of the same miracles or whatever, Satan's always got his little hand and things, but they can't do the other ones. And they're gods. They call their gods. And every time he did something against their God, God's is what happened. Our God is what happened. Their gods are not there. They don't exist. That's what he's trying to show them. Then he says, okay, I made myself known there. I swore to them, I'll bring them out of Egypt. So he brought them out. And he was taking them out of Egypt, where he built them into a nation, to Canaan, which is going to be where he brought the land for them. And the land that he promised to give Abraham and his descendants. This place is probably one of the most significant pieces of land in the earth. Okay. Then it goes down and says, one of the comments was, other places may be more beautiful, rich in resources, fruitful, and earthly important. However, every other land is ancillary to Israel in the big scheme of things. This is where the action of history occurs. Yeah, we're here. We're the United States. We're big and powerful. We're not. We're just
For now.
do what?
We are for now.
Well, yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, some of it we won't be. But the idea is that Israel is, and then it says the glory of my version says the glory of our lands. And it was then that way when he started, and it's not so much now, but it will be in the end, it'll be a land of milk and honey. what made me think of this also says, whenever I hear the word glory in the Bible, I think only of heaven. The glory of God, the glory. It's always referring to heaven. So he's talking about the glory of the land that will be in heaven. Israel is going to be that land. Okay. Now there'll be the rest of the world. We'll all join in everything. And I don't know how to even describe it, but this land is special. And you can't ever forget that, even though all the stuff's going on. God knows all that. It's still the glory of all lands and will be again. And everybody's going, whoa. Now he's trying to tell them this because they're getting ready to have all this other stuff get ready to happen to them. And they need to have some assurance that this is going to be back to the way it's supposed to be, because that's what they think is going to happen. But remember, they don't even God doesn't even tell Ezekiel about the 1,000 years of millennium. He just tells them it's going to happen. And he believes it. Well, that was pretty cool. In verse 7, it says, do not defile yourselves with the idols of Egypt. One of the main reasons they're going into captivity is because the Jews are worshiping idols. Okay. And it turns out at the end of their captivity, they pretty much as a nation get rid of idols. Okay. Individually, who knows? And the thing is, the Jews, the living God brought them out of Egypt. The Jews began secretly worshiping the gods of the Egyptians when they were being taken out. After all, this is the thinking of the Jews. Says, after all, the Egyptians were our masters. We were the slaves. Then the gods of Egypt got to be stronger than the God that we've been worshiping, because we were the slaves. That was their thinking. Okay, so he's taken them out of all that, and but they rebelled against me. Okay, of course, as they've always throughout the Bible, and rebelled. That's the way God designed us. I think people, a lot of the stuff about corporate, people are good, and we just got to help them see that goodness. No, people are bad, and they've got to overcome that badness. And they can't except through Christ. And corporations don't catch that. Now, some of them do, but I don't think very many countries don't accept it. Most of the people in the world, I think, everybody's good. They're not. They're not good. And that's the thing we have to overcome. I think it's in our DNA, but I can't prove it. Okay, somebody read 9 through 10.
But for the sake of my name, I brought them out of Egypt. I did it to keep my name from being profaned in the eyes of the nations among whom they lived, and in whose sight I had revealed myself to the Israelites. Therefore, I led them out of Egypt and brought them into the wilderness.
But I acted for my name's sake. God's going to do through circumstances and through history so that his name will be honored. Period. He's trying to talk to us. Period. The people of the world, a lot of them don't even believe in God, but the ones that do have a different idea of who God is. A lot of Christians don't ever understand the importance of these things that you only get in the Old Testament, which is sad. One of the commentaries, I got to read this to get it right, says, the divine reputation, which he's talking about, know my name, depends on the fate and welfare of his people. Because the rest of the world is watching Israel. They know something's different. They came out of this place. There's a big fire and smoke foam, and everywhere they go, they win. The rest of the world's terrified of this group of 2 million people, and they want to say, somebody's guiding them. Where is it? It says God. They're God. So he says, all of God's dealings with Israel were public. Before the eyes of the nation, Israel was to be the agent through whom the nations would come to know he is Yahweh. The account of the Exodus did go before the Jews as they marched towards the promised land. So as they're marching, people are seeing this and going back and reporting, they're on the way. And they're going, who's on their way? Let me tell you about these guys. And so the rest of the world's kind of a panic. So I took, in verse 10, I took them out of Egypt. Despite their sins that had been described, he set them free from slavery in Egypt and set them on the road to Canaan. A lot of them didn't really want to go. Mm-hmm. Why? Why didn't we want to go?
They don't like change.
Well, that's pretty much it. They're in slavery, but it's like most of the people in the world want security. You get security when you have no one fighting you. You have no one fighting you when you're communist and you're a big group. Security comes with freedom, but most people think it comes the other way.
They don't know what freedom is.
They don't know what freedom is. Right. That's why he has to train them. 2 million people, listen up. I got a word for you. How does he do that? He's got to write it down. They got to talk about it. They got to read it. They got to study it. They don't, but that's what he's doing. It's never say that he hasn't given us enough information to be able to make a decision for him. It's plenty of information, whatever you read in there. There's people still trying to find the crossing. I've got an idea where it was. We've talked about that before. And just last week, they found another wheel down in the old, we found it.
Like it couldn't have moved in the last thousands of years.
Yeah, or
could be
does that statement make you believe the Bible and everything else didn't? I mean, it's fun. I mean, just as an engineer, it's fun. That's cool. They found it. But the exciting part was he talked to the water droplets that were made up of different hydrogen molecules and everything else, and he said move. And they go, okay. They moved. And he says, dry the ground up too. Oh, yes, sir. They moved. They walked across this. Now fill it back in. Okay. That's the part I like. All the molecules of the world know who he is and they follow his orders. We should do.
They obey better than we do.
They do. He said the very rocks will cry out because they're smarter. They know who he is.
And because they don't have a choice.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
We are made in the image of God, meaning we have a choice.
Very good point.
We don't make choices well.
Right.
They know God from the very beginning.
Right. He created them.
You go.
Yeah. The molecules knew God.
Yeah.
I mean, so how do we not? But that's
We're made up of the same knowledge.
Everything had to be word of mouth. You start out with two people having a conversation and you go down and just like in school, you can do that. They go down and 20 kids at the end of the last person, everything is distorted from what the first person said. They had nothing written down.
Yeah. Let me stop there. I think they did. From my studies, the very first when God was when he's talking to Adam, he started writing it down. Then there's cuneiforms in Edom where Cain went that shows people writing down, and it was prolific because even things like a father, they found tablets of a father talking to his son who's at boarding school and had not used his money correctly. That's casual conversation written down right after Cain killed Abel. I think it's written from the very beginning, and that Moses, this is maybe just Kelon, but it's just from my studies, that Moses took that information and edited it, not edited it, but copied it or edited it, I don't know whatever you say, and made it to where he could do the first 5 books, because God said write down the first 5 books. So rather than do what you said, which that's the standard answer, I don't think that's true.
No, not to say we don't distort it as we go along anyway.
Oh, yeah. You're right about that. We still distort it. There's no problem with it. That's exactly right. But I think that it didn't rely on somebody. I've even heard them say the way they did the write down is when one person said it, they all said it, and then they pass it on, so they all memorize it because they've learned the first 12 books, the 5 books of the Bible by memory by the time they're 12 years old. So I mean, you could do that correctly, but I like this version better. My engineering mind, maybe. Okay, somebody read 11 and 12.
I gave them my decrees and made known to them my laws, by which the person who obeys them will live. Also, I gave them my Sabbaths as a sign between us, so they would know that I, the Lord, made them holy.
Okay, so he says, I gave him my statutes. Well, the 10 Commandments. Okay. and I also gave them my Sabbaths, right? And I don't remember hearing that before, but it says, so that the people would know that he is God. The Sabbath was a central sign of the old covenant. Okay. When people saw how they acted in love towards one another and how they followed these commands, sometimes to the nth degree of all this stuff, they said something's going on. That's what he wants today. When he sees us in the marketplace and they go, whoa, that guy's different. Why is he different? I need to investigate that. That's the type of actions and love that we need to have, that then other people will ask about it, because our mission is just go tell. And God wants it to be known, not just to the Jews and not just by everybody. God wants every person on earth to know who he is. And this is where he uses nature, which that's general revelation, right? You see these things, you got to think somebody had to make it out. People have had to try to distort that through the evolution thought. But if you look at the data, look at everything else, it's a creator is the only way it can be done. But then what he's saying here is a special revelation, which is God's written word. You don't know this unless somebody tells you. What was James? Philip went to the guy, he's reading books. How can I possibly understand this unless somebody tells me? I have to be here. I don't know how I got here, but I happen to be here. And so I will tell you because I know. And that's what it has to happen in that case.
Jerry, just a quick thought. Anybody who isn't under the new covenant is under the law. And that's why it's so important we understand the Old Testament, because anybody we talk to as a non-believer is still under the law. They're not under the new covenant. Therefore, we have to be able to help them understand, as you're just saying with Philip and the eunuch, how do I understand this?
Right.
And that's why they need to understand what the Old Testament says. Do you want Old Testament judgment, or do you want New Testament forgiveness?
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Somebody read Job 39, 13, 18.
The wings of the ostrich flap joyfully, though they cannot compare with the wings and feathers of the stork. She lays her eggs on the ground and lets them warm in the sand, unmindful that a foot may crush them, that some wild animal may trample them. She treats her young harshly, as if they were not hers. She cares not that her labor was in vain. For God did not endow her with wisdom or give her a share of good sense. Yet when she spreads her feathers to run, she laughs at horse and rider.
Why would I bring that up? God is powerful enough. Every other animal takes care of its young. The ostrich is oblivious to the young. They just drop their eggs and walk on. They see some eggs, they sit down on it. They walk over here and step on other eggs. They do all this dumb stuff because he said, that's how I created him. I created this ostrich to show you that I can do it any way I want to. It isn't evolution. It's dumbness that I presented into this animal. And, it says, and one of the things that talks about the horse, something about with the horse, basically saying, but the ostrich can outrun a horse with a rider on it.
I know, that is awesome.
I mean, so I gave him some things, but I didn't give him any smarts.
Kind of like people.
Okay. He's showing you that because evolution, that would be against evolution. They should be able to evolve that. No, not the way I gave it to him. Somebody read 13 to 26.
Yet the people of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They did not follow my decrees, but rejected my laws, by which the person who obeys them will live, and they utterly desecrated my Sabbaths. So I said I would pour out my wrath on them and destroy them in the wilderness. But for the sake of my name, I did what would keep it from being profaned in the eyes of the nations, in whose sight I have brought them out. Also with uplifted hand, I swore to them in the wilderness that I would not bring them into the land I had given them, a land flowing with milk and honey, the most beautiful of all lands, because they rejected my laws and did not follow my decrees and desecrated my Sabbaths, for their hearts were devoted to their idols. Yet I looked on them with pity and did not destroy them or put an end to them in the wilderness. I said to their children in the wilderness, do not follow the statutes of your parents or keep their laws or defile yourselves with their idols. I am the Lord your God. Follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. Keep my Sabbaths holy, that they may be a sign between us. Then you will know that I am the Lord your God. But the children rebelled against me. They did not follow my decrees. They were not careful to keep my laws, of which I said, the person who obeys them will live by them, and they desecrated my Sabbaths. So I said I would pour out my wrath on them and spend my anger against them in the wilderness. But I withheld my hand, and for the sake of my name, I did what would keep it from being profaned in the eyes of the nations in whose sight I had brought them out. Also, with uplifted hand, I swore to them in the wilderness that I would disperse them among the nations and scatter them through the countries, because they had not obeyed my laws, but had rejected my decrees and desecrated my Sabbaths, and their eyes lusted after their parents' idols. So I gave them other statutes that were not good, and laws through which they could not live. I defiled them through their gifts, and sacrifice of every firstborn, that I might fill them with horror, so they would know that I am the Lord.
That's uplifting.
But the house of the Lord rebelled against me. Unfortunately, Israel rebelled over and over again, so God decided to punish them. But I acted for my name's sake. God made Israel a nation and guided them with smoke and day and fire by night. The world would see what was going on. Since the other nations did not understand the Ten Commandments at that time, did not know that the Israelites are sinning against God. So if God punished them here and wiped out the Israelites, the other nations said, our God can't protect them. So God, for his name's sake, chose not to show his wrath on them. And it says in 1822, you did not walk in the statutes of your fathers. God is speaking about, he's talking to the generation 19 years and younger, because they came back, 10 spies went in there, they did all their stuff. They came back and says, it's terrible. They're going to kill us. We can't win in there. And was it Aaron, not who, as Joshua and Caleb. Yeah, came back and said, no. Yeah, they are big. Yeah, it is great. It's a wonderful place. We can do it because God will be with us. They go, no, I don't think so. And God, and one of the reasons, if we go in there and do this, then they're going to kill our kids. And who will be there? And he goes, okay, let's go on a little walk. And during that walk, everybody, it's going to take 40 years for the little walk. But during that walk, everybody that's 20 years and older will be dead. And so the fear of your kids not getting there, only they will get in there. You won't, you dummies. That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
He says, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's take a walk. I love the way he does those things. And then I'm going to scatter you. Ooh. This is, I guess, the first scattering of the Jewish people all around the world. Okay, so they're going to be scattered. Now, he knows where they are. We don't necessarily. But then he says, then gave them the statutes that were not good in ordinance, they could not live. In verse 25, let me read that one. And also I gave them statutes that were not good in ordinance by which they could not live by. What? God gave them the wrong thing? Bad things? No. Let me read a comment. In summary, when God said, I gave them statutes that were not good and rules by which they could not live, he is declaring that because the Israelites perverted God's statutes, the giving of first fruits, for example, even to the point of offering their firstborn children, God gave them over to the rules and statutes of their ancestors and the surrounding idolatrous nations. Those rules, which led to death, were the opposites of God's life-giving rules and were a judgment upon themselves. So that's why he's saying, that's what you want. It's like,
wasn't that a test?
yeah, well, it's like I've had my young kids in the BSF, the kindergarten and first graders. Why does God send people to hell? Because they beg him to go, let them go. He's only letting them go because that's where they want to go. He didn't send them there. When they beg him enough, he says, okay, you can go. It takes a while for that to sink into them, but it's true. Okay, and I pronounced them unclean. The Israelites were honoring idols, which they did until the end of the thing. Somebody read 27 and 30.
Therefore, son of man, speak to the people of Israel and say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. In this also your ancestors blasphemed thee by being unfaithful to me. When I brought them into the land I had sworn to give them, and they saw any high hill or any leafy tree, there they offered their sacrifices, made offerings that aroused my anger, presented their fragrant incense, and poured out their drink offerings. Then I said to them, what is this high place you go to? It is called Bama to this day.
Okay. Your fathers blasphemed. They're acting terrible again. They saw every high hill and leafy tree, and they offered their sacrifice. In terrible ingratitude, Israel used the very hills and trees that God gave them when they got into Canaan, the very trees and everything else, to offer the sacrifices to the pagan God. God gave it to them, and they're using it to honor and worship other gods. That made me mad. Okay? And then it comes in here, it says Bama, it says is a high place. The name's good in itself, but it was used by them in an odious to all good hearts as a brothel house is to a chaste woman. She is worse to pass by it, and the comment says, and spitteth at it. She should use, so should we in like case. In other words, Bama was just talking about the high place. And one of the things this is me walking through the Bible, it says to this day. Does that intrigue anybody when it says to this day? It's like, so where is it? Where is that Bama? I got to know. And I found out.
In Jerusalem is the highest place.
No, it's on nearly all the hills. Which one's Bama? It just means high hill. It doesn't mean a specific place. So when it says to this day, it's not talking about a specific place. It's talking about it continued on that they worshiped on the high hills. Okay. Then it says in verse 30, will you defile yourself after the manner of your fathers and play the harlot after these detestable things? This was a critical question that Ezekiel asked the elders who came to him and the prophet to inquire of the Lord. After spelling out the long history of Israel's sin and idolatry, the elders who were there to represent the people who defiled themselves, nothing had changed. So they're not being punished for what their ancestors did. They're being punished what they did, which is the same thing as the ancestors. Okay? Then somebody read 31, 32.
When you offer your gifts, the sacrifice of your children in the fire, you continue to defile yourselves with all your idols to this day. Am I to let you inquire of me, you Israelites? As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, I will not let you inquire of me. You say, we want to be like the nations, like the peoples of the world, who serve wood and stone. But what you have in mind will never happen.
So I'll read this, otherwise I get it wrong. God refuses to answer the elders in this verses because their inquiry is hypocritical, their hearts idolatrous. The covenant stipulates silence as a disciplinary measure. This refusal indicates God's holiness, reinforces the moral fabric of the covenant, and points forward to the necessity of redemption through the Messiah, in whom genuine seekers find the answer God once withheld. As I live, declares the Lord, that's an oath. He made it very clear, God made it very clear that he owed no special revelation to such disobedient people. And the comment is, it's always best to obey what he has already said in here and in the path already revealed in here, right? He doesn't owe us a special thing today. I keep asking him, put me on the memo list. I'm like, Jerry, come on. I should know who you. He says, I already told you. It's right here. Get up earlier and read. If I have, it's hard. And then 32, you will be like the nations and like the tribes and the lands. They almost look forward to the opportunity to live like the families of other countries who forsake the Lord. Can you imagine? That's what we're doing today. We're fighting to be against God. Let's get rid of the rules that help us stay there. Let's make Sunday not a time of worship. Let's have soccer practice on that day. Woo! It drives me nuts. Let's do everything we can to not allow you to have a day of rest. I gave it to you. You're taking it away from yourself. So our path has already been revealed. We already need to be doing what we need to be doing. Somebody read 33 to 36.
As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, I will reign over you with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and with outpoured wrath. I will bring you from the nations and gather you from the countries where you have been scattered. With a mighty hand and an outstretched arm and with outpoured wrath. I will bring you into the wilderness of the nations, and there face to face, I will execute judgment upon you. As I judged your ancestors in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so I will judge you, declares the sovereign Lord.
Okay, with a mighty hand and outstretched arm, what does that make you think of? That's the millennial. He's going to be ruling with an iron fist.
Yeah.
1,000 years in the millennial, then forever. Yeah. But he's ruling. They're beginning to talk about this. Remember, he talks about then the capture of Israel, and then when Christ is there, and now in the future. This is in the future. He's not going to forsake them. He is going to rule. Okay. But he's going to do it on his terms. And then God is telling Israel there's going to be a war. He's scattering them. He says, but I'm going to bring you back in. Okay. There's going to be this is kind of interesting, a regathering in unbelief in preparation for the judgment, specifically the tribulation, followed by a second worldwide, these are worldwide ones, regathering in faith in preparation for the blessings, which will be the millennium. What he's saying is, in the last 3 days of the tribulation, there'll be 2 days of, there'll be a day of miraculous grace given to all the Jews that are alive, which, oh, by the way, is only 1/3, because he says here, he's going to get the rebels out because he's getting ready to save everybody miraculously, okay? For 2 days of mourning, of going, we're sorry. And then the last day, they admit their guilt and they're accepted. And then the tribulation ends, they go into the millennium. But you have to have the people killed. So 2/3 of the Jewish people during the tribulation will be killed. Those are the rebels. Somebody read 37, 38.
I will take note of you as you pass under my rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. I will purge you of those who revolt and rebel against me. Although I will bring them out of the land where they are living, yet they will not enter the land of Israel. Then you will know that I am the Lord.
Okay, so he says, shall make you pass under the rod. He's talking about Israel. This is during the tribulation here. Pass under the rod. The shepherd puts his rod out and he accepts his sheep. Okay, he knows which one it is, and they pass under the rod. You have to pass the inspection. You have to pass, are you my sheep? That's what he's saying here. And I'll purge the rebels. That's what's happened for the first 2/3 of the people. So I'm going to read verse 39.
As for you, people of Israel, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Go and serve your idols, every one of you. But afterward, you will surely listen to me and no longer profane my holy name with your gifts and idols.
So he's saying, go serve your idols? No. What he's saying is God's calling his people to a decision. They have to make a decision at this point. The first thing they say is, one of the comments was, go ye serve. This is not a command to serve idols, but a judicial declaration of God giving up half idol, half Jehovah worshippers to utter idolatry. They will not serve the Jehovah alone. If they don't serve him alone, I'm going to give you up. And then the next one is, be at least consistent. Sin on. if it's not your will to sin, but if it's your will to sin, but do not make the sin worse by hypocrisy of unreal worship and mix up the names of Jehovah with the ritual of Moloch. I mean, he's getting on to him here. And then the other one is, I would rather have open idolaters than hypocrites, fancying you can worship me and at the same time serve idols. 40 to 41.
For on my holy mountain, the high mountains of Israel, declares the sovereign Lord, there in the land, all the people of Israel serve me, and there I will accept them. There I will require your offerings and your choice gifts, along with all your holy sacrifices. I will accept you as fragrant incense when I bring you out from the nations and gather you from the countries where you have been scattered, and I will be proved holy through you in the sight of the nations.
So he's saying, from my holy mountain. When is he going to be in his holy mountain? During the millennium. Now, so it's not now. It's not. He's not talking about the Babylonian time. He's talking about then. Now they don't know about the 1,000 years, but they know it's sometime in the future. He promised to restore them. That's why he has to be. They have to have 1,000 years to take a while to learn what's going on. They're learning through that 1,000 years that everything that he said happened and is happening or going to happen. Okay. Nothing he promises. And that's one of Satan's goal. Get one promise to not be true. Then he can't be God. But he's got it.
You can start to see how the Israelites might struggle with, when the Messiah shows up, that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
Instead of the way he did show up.
Right. So that confused them.
Because, and so they're not getting, it's kind of like low-informed voters, for lack of a better term, low-informed Israelite.
Right. So this is the time when he's in there. Let's go to the 42 to 44.
Then you will know that I am the Lord when I bring you into the land of Israel, the land I had sworn with uplifted hand to give to your ancestors. There you will remember your conduct and all the actions by which you have defiled yourselves, and you will loathe yourselves for all the evil you have done. You will know that I am the Lord when I deal with you for my name's sake, and not according to your evil ways and your corrupt practices, you people of Israel, declares the sovereign Lord.
Okay, so most of the commentary said, this is when they're coming back from Babylon. But I don't think so, because he's talking about the millennium again. So when they come back to Israel will be, now some of them have already regathered, but when they get back there, they'll start going, the tribulation ends 75 days later, the millennial starts, and it says that they're coming back. That's the last regathering. And guess what? Us Gentiles get to help them. It says the Gentiles will help you move. We get to help all over the world. We go find them, help them get into Jerusalem, which is where God said they're going to be, and they're going to be, and we're going to help them do that. Then when it says remember, it says means to recall to mind, to acknowledge, take account of, and accept the responsibility for your conduct. And then one of the comments down there was, the punishment that God's given these people was never merely vindictive, but always a process moving forward the realization of his original intention of good for the nations of the earth. So I'm going to read 45 to 48, and we'll be finished just a minute.
The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, set your face toward the south, reach against the south, and prophesy against the forest of the southland. Say to the southern forest, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am about to set fire to you, and it will consume all your trees, both green and dry. The blazing flame will not be quenched, and every face from south to north will be scorched by it. Everyone will see that I, the Lord, have kindled it. It will not be quenched.
So when he's saying set your face to the south, Timon means south. Okay, there is also a town that's closely related to that. But what he's trying to say is, when he's saying that, he's really talking about the fact that it's south of Babylon, not very far. You look across the thing, Babylon's over here, and you go that way. It's kind of a southwest, west southwest. But that's what they're talking about there. Speak out against the south. It says, and behold, I'm about to kindle fire in you. This shall consume every tree in you, as well as every green tree and every dry tree. Basically, the Babylonian army is coming, devastating destruction of Judah and Jerusalem. And it's thought that this means both the righteous and the wicked were going to suffer when this happened. Your earthly body isn't what counts. Now, he wants to take care of you, and he will. But your earthly body, when I'm talking to the Ukrainians, I'm telling them, God's going to save you, not your body. That's hard concept. It's your soul from the evil one. Okay. And so that's what he's doing. And that's what's going to happen here. They're going to get to go to heaven right away. So, yeah, that's bad, but, and we look at it, like looking at the Gazans right now, the Hamas or whoever it is, if there's Christians in there, they're going to heaven. If they're children, they're going to heaven. If they're not, they're going where they need to be. They'll lake of fire eventually. Okay. We don't see the big picture. He does. He is the big picture. So we've got to look at things in history, what's going on now, and say, that's horrible. How could God do that? Well, he said, I'm going to do these kind of things. Deal with it. It's the way I do it. Don't let it bother you. I have a purpose. Okay? And read 49, somebody.
Then I said, Sovereign Lord, they are saying of me, isn't he just telling parables?
Yeah. The elders of Israel, the captives already there, rejected, even despised Ezekiel's message. He just gave them because they said it's too hard to understand. So it can't be right. I don't understand it. We're the good guys. We're the smart guys. We're the one that teach you guys. So if we don't understand it, it's parables. It's not true. Men find it difficult to understand messages which is distasteful for them. It's well known that an unwilling heart, any message from God appears to be difficult to comprehend. It's still today. I don't understand it. It must not be true. Read more.
Thank you, Drew.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jared.